Hi everyone, and welcome to Baby Loss, Grief and Love. I'm your host Kelly Wells, and I run UK charity Making Miracles, who bring you today's podcast. The podcast is open to parents, professionals, families, colleagues, organisations, health professionals, anyone that wants to come on and be a part of raising awareness in our baby loss community. We are based in the UK, however, we welcome international guests, and anyone, wherever you are very welcome here. If you'd like to get in touch, please email me, kelly@makingmiracles.org.uk, and please also consider making a donation to help us be able to continue with this amazing tour, supporting all of those people in baby loss. Thank you so much. Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's podcast. Today, I am joined again by the lovely Vicky, who has been on in the past, haven't you, Vicky?
Have, yeah, a couple of years ago now, I think it was, wasn't it?
It was. And back then, I guess we talked more about your own journey, didn't we? And how you got into doing what
Yeah,
you do.
yeah. So covered my own fertility, like 5.5 years of trying and IVFs, IUIs, all of those. So yeah, we went quite deep into that, didn't we? And then I then got to doing what I do now, or why I do it now.
Exactly. So, anyone that hasn't listened to that podcast, it may be a good idea to have a little look back. We will link it with this one so you can see a bit of the background that Vicky's actually talking about. But today, she is here to obviously talk about what she does now. We talked about the lead up to it and why she decided to do what she does. But we didn't talk about too much information and too much detail. We just didn't have time, I think, quite frankly. We had lots to talk about. Um, but exactly what it is that you do offer with regards to nutrition, advice, sleep, just the overall kind of well-being, I guess, of someone who has fertility issues or is pregnant or pregnant after loss or even that kind of recovery after loss, isn't it, Vicky? So there's lots of different
Yeah,
elements you can kind of discuss and help with. So do you want to
yeah,
start kind of giving an overall kind of view and I'll ask questions if I need
yeah,
to?
yeah, sure. So obviously, following my own fertility journey, I actually saw a fertility nutritionist, and then our next cycle worked. So we kind of attributed everything to like, yeah, that was it, although, we were fairly healthy at that point, there's always tweaks you can make. Um, and I was, after then we had our daughter, I didn't want to go back to London and be out the house for 12, 14 hours a day, having gone through everything we went through. And I was like, you know what, I just want to help people that were like me. So yes, spent 4 years retraining to become a nutritional therapist, and then a further 12 months on top of that to sort of niche into fertility nutrition. So I do, I kind of am like a women's health nutritional therapist, but my niche is with fertility. So probably 75% of my work is with fertility, with couples or individuals. Um, yeah, and so I have people coming to me who are trying naturally that might have gone through recurrent pregnancy loss, people that are going through IVF, some that just want some preconception care because they've heard it can really help with the health
Mm.
of the baby. Um, Frustratingly, it would be lovely if everyone came to me right at the beginning of their trying to conceive journey, but that doesn't happen. It did happen for me, so I completely understand why people don't do that. I think you're taught so much at school that, don't get pregnant, don't get pregnant, don't get pregnant. And then when you try and it doesn't happen, you're like, what? And then you're a bit lost. Um, so yeah, so that's how I got into doing what I'm doing. Um, and again, being a nutritionist, people do think, oh, it's just you're just going to be tell me to either go gluten free because that's what pops up on ChatGPT, or cut out dairy, or just eat more fruit and veg and look after your gut health, and that's it. Actually, yes, I'm not going to make you go gluten free or dairy free unless I think you need to. I do, some I might do. There's always a reason behind it. But yeah, nutrition, food is 100% the foundation. It's the base. It's how I would always start any sort of program that I'm working with. But it's also about the whole person. So it's looking at, and you've mentioned it as well, I'll look at their sleep. I don't think people realize how important sleep is, that when you're asleep, that's when all your repair work happens. So,
Mm,
we need to be getting into deep sleep, not broken, light sleep. We want to be getting into deep sleep. So, really helping people with their sleep hygiene, stress. I mean, if people are having fertility struggles, they're going to be stressed. Plus,
yeah,
you've got your
absolutely.
daily stressors that are on top of that. So I can't take the stress away, but I can help go through various stress techniques and stress management and try as much as possible to really help with the stress side of things as well. On to toxins, environmental toxins. Again, can't avoid them, but where we can reduce them, looking at movement as well. So particularly for, everything's always harder for the woman really than it is for the man. But exercise is brilliant, but we don't want to be going too much because then we're going to be disrupting hormones because we're going to raise our stress hormone. That's going to lower our progesterone. It's about getting the right kind of exercise in. But
It's
then
about the
also,
right balance, isn't it, Vicky?
it's
It's
all about
all of
balance.
these
And
things.
I was just going to say, actually, it's about balance because it's about that person sitting in front of me that I don't have a prescription. I don't have a ready-made protocol for everyone that walks through the door because I need to know what is your work-life balance, what other commitments do you have, how much time do you have to prepare food. I'm not going to say, right, you need to be in the kitchen 5 hours a day making every single food and ingredient from scratch because I don't have time for that. So I don't expect my clients to have time for that.
Yeah.
Um, so it's what works for them, their likes and dislikes. Yes, oily fish, salmon, mackerel, all that kind of thing is amazing. But if you don't like fish, you're certainly not going to suddenly sit down and have some sardines. So again, it's about working with them and how we can sort of incorporate what they need, but in a way that they can do that works for them. Because there's no other way they're going to walk out the door and not do one thing. They've wasted their money, they've wasted their time and they're not going to get anything from it. And that's not what I want. I want them to be able to, walk out with a clear action plan, know what they need to do, know the reason why they're doing it, I think. Because if they know the reason why, why I've made certain recommendations, it gives them, again, a bit more oomph to do it as well. Because
Mm,
people are a bit low by the time they come to see me. They're not all, yeah, it is, they're not in a
yeah.
great place.
And like any pregnancy or any pregnancy loss, every single person is different, and
Yeah,
that experience is different, let alone what foods they like or don't like, let alone what how many hours in the day they've got to exercise or how many hours sleep they get because they might be on shift work and it might be irregular. Like every single thing really that you just talked about on top of the experience individually itself of why they're here seeing you is so unique. So it's about
yeah,
building a bigger picture and giving options and choices for all those different elements as almost like the world view, isn't it? And
yeah.
it will be different from client to client.
100%. I never have the same, they might come with, say, recurrent loss or something like that. They've gone through pregnancy loss at different stages, or again, different stories, different amount of times that it's been there, and they're just not being told why. How many times are you told, oh, it's just one of those things, oh, it happens to
Yeah.
1 in 4 or whatever it is, and there's not an answer, is it? And people want an answer. So I always try and really delve deeper. So really analyze their food diary, analyze their health questionnaire that I give them before, but also recommend some further testing, some testing that they can get through their GP. So bloods, I love a blood test. It honestly, it can tell us
But
so
it's all right for
much.
you. You're not the one getting pricked.
No, do you know what? But I love a blood test on myself,
Oh,
not
do
having it done.
you?
But I
Ooh, I
love getting
hate
the
them.
result and like being like, oh, well, if I'm feeling a bit tired, like, why am I feeling tired? It must be, rather than just guessing. And I think a lot of the times we do just guess, oh, we're feeling a bit tired. Let's go and I'm going to pop to Holland and Barrett. I'm going to pick up some B12 or whatever. I'm going to look into getting some IV drips and, but you don't know unless you're testing. And, I found I just had a client actually, and I think she must be about 16 weeks pregnant now, which is the furthest she's ever got before. And I think she was having losses around sort of 6, 7 weeks. And it came back to I mean, again, I can't say that this is the actual reason, but this is what I kind of came up with. Her iron was so low, and you just need so much energy. So there's a whole other thing on fertility nutrition with the mitochondrial energy, but I'm probably going to go a bit too sciencey with that, so I won't go too deep into that. Um, but for her, low iron, she had it, the GP knew. She was put on the standard sort of like ferrous sulfate prescription, but that was unsettling her stomach, so she hardly took it. Therefore, her iron levels weren't increasing. And so I changed her supplement with obviously agreement with her GP, was quite happy for her to try something else. Talked about obviously liver, sorry, not iron containing foods, which liver is one of them. But again, if somebody's like, no, that is a step too far, I'm not going near liver, again, I get it.
It's
I
absolutely
will.
disgusting. Does anyone actually
I,
like liver?
do you know what? Very like again, couple, had a couple. But then again, there's little tricks that you can sort of hide it in food. If somebody says to me no, then I will 100% go with that. I'm like, that's fine. But yeah, again, looking at the right supplement that actually is going to increase their iron levels. Vitamin D, annoyingly, the GPs have just stopped testing for Vit D as standard, which is annoying. Because something as simple as that can make all the difference.
Mm.
So
But again,
blood
though,
testing,
that's just a finger prick test, isn't it? The vitamin
you
D. I've
can.
had that before.
Yeah, so you don't have to get that through the GP. You can go privately, and it does cost a fortune for something like that.
Mm.
So you don't have to spend mega money on getting, there's certain things that GP just won't do. It's not in their nice guidelines, and I get it. They're going to get into trouble if they sort of push, or a lab's just going to reject it. So they can ask for it, but the lab will reject it anyway. Um, so I'm not sort of putting the blame on the GP. They're restricted by their regulations, obviously. Yeah, bloods can tell us it's honestly so much, and it's quite simple to sort of arrange and do. If you do have to go private, it's not going to cost a fortune. Looking at thyroid levels, for example, thyroid is so wide the range, but actually for fertility, it needs to be so much narrower. We need to be looking at the whole thyroid panel, not just TSH, which is a thyroid stimulating hormone. We want to be looking at everything. Otherwise, again, we're not getting that bigger picture as to, well, what might be going wrong? Why are you not falling pregnant? Or why are you miscarrying? Or why are you going through IVF? And you're just not getting any implantation. So, you're getting a negative cycle each time. I always sort of say, I'll try and put my little detective hat on and really sort of dig deeper and look into areas that aren't standard necessarily in the GP or a fertility clinic. I do encourage clients to have the miscarriage screen that the NHS do offer. Annoyingly, you have to have 3 miscarriages to have that.
Yeah,
Um,
a lot of my
which,
clients always bring that up because
yeah,
they want to know why after that first one, right?
exactly. And and there was a whole host of reasons that it could be happening. I also, on the whole testing front, and I really wish this test was available when I was going through it, but well, it's still not new. It's not new anymore, but my daughter's nearly 12 and it wasn't around 12 years ago. Um, but another test that I quite like doing if I feel there's a need. So I do talk about a lot about tests, but I don't expect every client to have every single one of these tests on. But the vagina microbiome is just like opens a whole new world as to what might be happening, particularly when there's that loss picture or implantation picture or just not falling pregnant or unexplained infertility. Um, that is mind blowing with what that
What
can.
does that do, Vicky?
So it's an at-home test that you do a swab in your vagina. You don't have to go too far, too deep. You just do it at home, send it off to the lab, and then I'll get the report back. It's very comprehensive. But what it does is what they say, and there's a lot of research out there now. And again, it's quite, a few years old now, so it's not just been found in the last 6 months. It is, more and more doctors are taking on board what a vagina microbiome test will say. But it will look at, so they say that the vaginal environment needs to be 90 to 95% lactobacillus dominant. So lactobacillus is your beneficial bacteria.
Oh,
Um,
right. Kind of like your gut
so
health, but in your vagina.
Like your gut. So in your gut, you want to have it as diverse as possible with lots of different beneficial bacteria. In your vaginal microbiome, you want that to be literally lactobacillus dominant, Lactobacillus crispatus, if we're going to get down to the actual strain as well.
Oh, wow. I
Um,
won't try and
and
say
when
that one.
and when it's not, that's when sort of pathogens can come in, and that pathogenic bacteria can come in, infections and things like that. And bacterial vaginosis, candida, all of those. And 50% of women can be completely asymptomatic and not know that they've got these. Signs of BV are, discharge, it might be a bit smelly or anything like that, itchiness. But 50% of women don't have that. So they don't know until they test. And would it be a test that I run if someone just walked through the door and they want to look at preconception care? Probably not, unless they just want to test everything and, they've got the budget to do it. But it's definitely one that I would look into when there's a loss. Or like I say, it's just unexplained infertility. Things just aren't working, not falling pregnant. Again, I never test anything without knowing that we've got a solution. I think it just adds stress and, really
Yeah.
what was the point? Um, so there's always a solution, whether that's looking at supplements and antimicrobials or whether that's looking at antibiotics. Um, but if we go down the antibiotic route, we want to protect the gut microbiome because obviously it's going to deplete there, and also looking at replenishing the vaginal microbiome, so replenishing that lactobacillus. And again, had so many good results from testing, doing the after work, and then going on. I've had few clients that are literally waiting for their period to arrive to start their next IVF cycle, and they're late and they test and they're pregnant, and it's like they was not expecting that. Um, but like I said, we've just been able to do that, digging a little bit deeper, investigating a little bit more.
Mm,
Um, I'm also never forgetting the man in all of this because it is 50% down to him as well. And I think it's something that's becoming a bit more to the forefront. And there's some brilliant male influencers that have gone through it themselves that are coming to the fore now. And I want to give a shout out actually to Test Him because they're really good. For male fertility, they've got podcasts and they've got sort of their own website with lots of information as well. Um, but yeah, not forgetting the man. And even if they've
mm,
had sort of the semen analysis and it's okay, well, an okay semen analysis now, 50 years ago, was low. It wasn't okay. But the World Health Organization have had to sort of reduce the parameters because the male sperm is just depleting through probably ultra processed food, through toxins in the environment, through skinny jeans that they all went through a phase of wearing, but things like that just have a massive impact on sperm quality. So,
wow.
so it's always, always trying to get the man involved as well.
Mm,
Um, and again, looking at his environment, even doing further testing on him as well. Even if they've had a standard semen analysis, they might have had we can test further and look at their sperm DNA fragmentation. So it's actually looking at the DNA of the sperm, and
mhm.
and it's the male's DNA that actually has a big influence on the health of the baby and the health of the baby going into adulthood as well. So it's not just having a healthy pregnancy and getting that lovely, beautiful baby. It's actually about the health of that child as well. So everything has a big knock-on effect. It's not just getting that positive pregnancy test. It has such a knock-on effect going forward as well. So it's not forgetting the man in all of this.
Absolutely. And, even things like, being stressed at work, the guys bringing home that issue home, carrying that, if you are struggling to conceive, carrying that kind of, I guess, responsibility of that male ego as well, that,
Yeah,
you know, some people, when I was studying for my hypnotherapy qualifications, we talked a lot about male impotence, and sometimes that can occur through stress or through pressure of
yeah,
I've got to kind of perform in the here and now because my wife's ovulating, and all of those kind of things have a knock-on effect that I don't think maybe sometimes as women who are quite determined and, set on getting pregnant and set on that end goal don't necessarily understand. And I know definitely psychologically that can affect a man that then
yeah.
can
Oh,
affect
yeah,
you physically, and
yeah,
we don't realize that when we're like, come on, I'm ovulating, let's go. it kind of does
Yeah,
add to that kind of pressure and that stress for a guy who then feels like if I don't perform in that way, I'm less of a man, or she's gonna be upset with me, or she might then have a
yeah,
period and then I get the blame for it because I didn't perform enough, and I just think there's so much pressure. And I've had a few male clients who have been like, we're trying again, and I'm just like so stressed and I'm overwhelmed and I feel like I'm carrying all the responsibility for where this goes, and she's going to be devastated. And it's a lot on a guy, and they don't talk about it, and they don't
no,
don't have that space that they are able to do that. And if there's
yeah,
some testing that can be done that can help that out, or if there's things like hypnotherapy that can help them to de-stress or stop vaping or stop smoking or stop drinking as much because they're so stressed, our bad habits then kick up.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
any of those things as well. So it's such a vast subject, isn't it? And what I
yeah,
don't want people listening to this to be thinking is, oh my goodness, is that my fault? Have I got to go and get that test done? Have I got to spend all this money? This isn't what this is about. We are basically wanting to provide more information and a little bit more of an explanation, I guess, of how people can look at things further when they get to that point.
yeah,
And when they are able to, because a lot of this stuff, as you say, some of it can be on the NHS, but people just don't know to ask, which is always really valuable. If you can ask and you can get it and you can get it for free, amazing. We've done a really good job
yeah,
here today. But what we also want to provide is options and choices for people. So if they're not aware of it, they know there is somewhere they can go. Yes, it's a
yeah,
private fee for your time and your expertise, of course, which are very, very valuable. However, some of this kind of, I guess, the things we've been talking about, we can also, as women, because I deal with them every day, start thinking, oh, is that my body? Is that my vagina that's got the wrong bacteria? Is that my fault? Have I done something? And that can also have that kind of hand in hand therapeutic need to understand that these are our bodies, we've got no control over them. There's certain things we can definitely do to help, help make it better. But we at the same time aren't medical science genius, magic wand. There you go. This is all going to work and it's guaranteed, because some people, I'm guessing, Vicky, do these things and we don't always get the best outcome, but it's about
no.
having that choice and that option to know it's available and there and understand it.
Yeah, I think as well, you've got to be in the right headspace. If
Yeah.
you've just had a loss, sometimes I have people calling me and they've literally just had a negative result or they've just had a loss. And I'm like, you need to be in the right headspace because, I get there's that knee-jerk reaction. Well, I want to do something. And I get that you feel like you're empowering yourself, you're taking back a little bit of control, but you have got to be in the right headspace to do it and just sort of to be going through the motions for it. So definitely, we've spoken about like nutrition and grief and things like that before. And you
Yeah.
do have to go through that grief cycle. I think definitely. And it's not a blame game, it's not if it's male factor fertility or whether it's down to egg quality and it's not a blame game. It's just about, well, let's just find out, when you're ready, what else could be happening so you're not continuing. There's plenty as well. Again, I don't want to like have a go at fertility clinics at all because there are so many amazing ones out there, but they'll just repeat the same cycle again and until you get that positive. But some people, I think there's scientific evidence shows it's like 6 to 9 cycles, IVF cycles to get there. Some people it works for one, some people it works on the second one, but some people do have to go through like 6, 7, 8, 9 of them. Well, one, some people can't afford to do that. Most people can't afford to do that, to be perfectly honest. And
Mm.
secondly, who's got the emotional strength and the psychology to go through that as well? So, you can try and reduce something I need, or take away. Well, I'm not going to say take anxiety. I can't do that because I was there and I was anxious for my whole pregnancy, thinking I'm going to lose again or something's not going to happen. But um, you know, to just get people in their best possible way in themselves. emotionally, nutritionally, physically to do it again. Like I said, it's not a
Yeah.
blame game at all. It's yeah, it is
No, but
really
I
about
know,
being very careful, yeah,
I
with
just
how we
know
sort of approach it.
when we are in those positions, and I talk about this just throughout every podcast I ever do, we do when we can't find a reason why. And I say this all the time, it's been etched into our minds since we were toddlers. It's one of the first words many children say. Why? Because we're taught that there's always a reason for something, right? And if
Yeah,
we can't find that reason out, we look for people to blame. If we can't find people to blame, like, a doctor or a midwife, or, if something were to happen during a pregnancy or not get picked up, as example, if we can't do that, then we often do blame ourselves. And there are so many people who do that. And funny enough, I
yeah,
had someone on a podcast a few weeks ago. I'm not sure if it's gone out yet or it will have by the time this one goes out. And we almost had a little bit of a discussion around this because she was saying, well, it's like if I'm driving the car and I have a car crash, it's my fault. And I was like, well, it's not because, you're looking at this as you can see everything around you, and there are always hazards around you, and we can't always see them. And you can do your best in a car crash, but you can't help it if someone else does something wrong and you're responding to that. But with a baby and a pregnancy, we can't see the hazards around them. We can't see what's
no,
going on in there. So, you've got to kind of, it's really difficult when you're in that phase of the way your brain and your chemicals are working and kind of like plotting against you in a way. It's really harsh and we're really unkind to
yeah,
ourselves.
we
Um,
are, yeah,
it's too much, and you wouldn't do that to a stranger or someone you loved. You would never say, "Oh, that's actually your fault." But we're very happy to say, "Oh, it's our fault. It must be something to do with our body. My body's let the baby down. My body's done this. My body's done that." And I sit there and I just, it makes me so, so sad
yeah,
because it isn't anyone's fault. This horrible thing has happened, and yes, we don't know why, but we automatically always blame ourselves. And I think, getting to that point where you can look at this, I guess, more objectively, little less emotion, which is very difficult when you're in grief. But some
yeah,
people manage to kind of justify it to themselves. And, we've talked about the whole, would you say this to your friend? Would you say this to your colleague? You wouldn't ever do that. You only do it to
no,
yourself. And to then take a step back and think, right, if this is keeping on happening and I am doing everything in my power, that we can control of our bodies, is there anything else I can do? And if they can sit here and listen to this podcast and think, right, I'm going to go and get my blood test done, I'm going to go and look at this, I'm going to do that. And if all those things still come back and there's not really enough information, I've got an option to go and see someone like Vicky. I've got somewhere else to go. And I think in grief and in the whole life cycle that is fertility and pregnancy and loss and pregnancy after loss, I think it's really, really important to always have something as an option in your back pocket. It's very sad when someone gets to the end of a very long road and doesn't feel like they have anything left to do. That's quite a hard level of acceptance to think,
yeah,
my
100%,
journey is over. This is it for me now. And I think
yeah,
having someone like you, that can support them through these things and, having some therapy and doing the emotional work alongside some of the practical things that you can incorporate into a
yeah,
diet, or you can turn off your screens before bedtime. I don't know what your sleep advice is, but I'm just being a bit like,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
top
yeah,
line here, this is just my silly interpretation. But having that kind of advice and that kind of support, and then knowing even if you get to that point where the journey is over, knowing you've done everything you can do is, I think it helps with that level of acceptance rather than the guilt or the shame or the what if or the it is my fault.
yeah,
It does help the whole process if you get to that stage. And please, that hope that doesn't happen
yeah,
for people. But if it is there, I think it's an amazing resource. But again, if you can afford it, and a lot of people who are especially paying for fertility care or expensive
oh,
IVF
yeah,
clinics, must be getting to the point of thinking, how much more can we do? How much more can
Yeah,
we invest in this pregnancy or try and save, to have our family? And
I
again,
know.
that's another huge burden, isn't it? And
Yeah, it is.
stress that you don't need
And
because you're
yeah,
trying to get
yeah,
pregnant.
you don't want the money stress on top of your normal stress, the fertility stress. You
Yeah.
don't want, because I mean, was it 2 weeks ago when the Kent and Medway NHS trusts reduced the number of cycles, haven't they, from 2 to 1 on the NHS?
Oh,
So going
wow.
back to IVF, and you're just like, and reduce the age limit. So at the moment it's 40, and they've reduced it now to 38.
No,
And you
I
just,
did not know
yeah,
that.
yeah. Yeah, so I think it's like 2 weeks ago they announced it. So yeah, they've reduced IVF cycles from 2 to 1. Now IVF, NICE guidelines are 3, so it's the whole postcode lottery. Age limit from 40 to 38, and frozen transfers from 4 to 2. So really taking away
Wow.
options, really taking away options and leaving people with, yeah, not a lot to go through. Especially, a lot of people, a lot, even clinics will say that first IVF cycle is a bit of a trial and error because
Yeah.
you don't know how you're going to respond to
Understandably.
stimulation. You're not going to, how's egg collection going to go? How's embryo transfer going to go? What's your womb lining going to be like? You find out a lot of that in that first cycle. And if you get pregnant on that one, amazing.
Yeah.
But, not everyone does. And then they're left, and you're just like, yeah, so that
What
was
are they meant to
absolutely
do?
gutted. Yeah, because yeah, to go through fertility treatment privately is ridiculous. We did it, and Jesus Christ, it was a lot. It was a lot. But yeah, so I
Yeah.
was really gutted to see that, and some of the comments that were made. We're going off topic now because I'll be here all day talking ranting about the
Yeah, but it's
comments that were
important.
made.
It's important that people realise this, it is soul destroying for that couple to not be able to get their family or their family dreams and hopes that
Yeah.
based on money.
But
It's
yeah, and it shouldn't be based on money. And again, there's
no.
another little shout out. There's another charity for fertility action, which are really campaigning to make it fair across the whole country. There are some places in the country, I don't know where, but there are still some that you get 3 cycles, and there's some you don't get any. So they're really trying to make it fair across the board for everybody to be able to access
Well, it'd
fertility
be worth
care.
relocating, wouldn't it? It'd be worth moving house, going from one to
Yeah,
three. It'd
yeah,
probably buy your house.
definitely.
You
Yeah,
think, wow, that's unreal. Unreal.
yeah.
I hate
So
postcode lotteries. I always say that about the charity, People always say, oh, you're so lucky in Kent to have Making Miracles and we haven't got it. And funny enough, again, I had another lady on the podcast actually a week or so ago, and she was talking about where she lives is very rural. There is nothing like us. And she's just dealing with it all on her own. And it's not fair. It's not
that's
right. But
heartbreaking, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah, we want to do all we can, which is part of why we have the podcast, because this isn't a postcode lottery. This is free for everyone internationally. And and again, people listening to this who might be in America and can get all this stuff via insurance. This is really probably very valuable information for them because they're
Yeah,
probably covered to get some of this stuff as well.
we
We're
get
dealing with
some
the
of it anyway.
NHS. Yeah, we're dealing with obviously the statutory body that is the NHS, and that we are limited here. Um, but in other countries, they might actually have more options
Mm,
to the financial side of it that
yeah.
actually might be really beneficial.
Yeah, because even, if you've got private healthcare here, fertility's not on it. Fertility won't covered. So,
Mm,
you wanna try and wangle some tests on without
yeah,
saying that it's for
yeah,
fertility reasons to try and get as much done. If I'm probably, I don't know, I might get sued for saying it, but you want to try and get, just don't mention fertility, mention anything else, for it as
yeah.
well
Well,
to
it's
try and
because of
get it.
insurance.
Yeah.
Right. And this just shows you, I'm a little bit off piste here, but I will come back. But I just want to make one point. This just shows you, when we're going through these things, and I always say to my clients, this is so individual, this is so difficult to get right. None of us have got this right. None of us have got the formula to make this happen. Um, and the fact that people cannot get insured for pregnancy or pregnancy loss or any of that just shows you, because it is so unpredictable, it's so unique. There isn't even a formula that all the big very
Yeah,
intelligent mathematical boffins can come up with to insure anyone for this. So again, I've just said all that about America and now I've said this out loud. It might not even be a thing, but I know in the UK it is very difficult to insure privately against pregnancy loss. Very
yeah,
difficult.
yeah, yeah. I didn't think you even could. So yeah,
No, I
it
don't think
must
you
be very
can.
different.
I
No,
don't think you can. And I think a lot of clinics within the UK, private clinics and NHS, um, obviously can't cover that insurance, can't pay the premium. So it's not worth offering some of the things that could help because if they do then suffer with a loss, it could shut everything down because it is that
yeah,
big. And it just shows you, when we're in our own journey and we're sitting with our blinkers on thinking, oh my goodness, we're consumed by it. It shows you that this is so much bigger because, it's not on you. It's not your fault. It's
no,
everybody. It's the whole thing around pregnancy loss. It is so unpredictable. It is such a roll of the dice that we can't even form a probability formula to make it okay to insure.
no,
Do you know what I mean? So
no.
I
Yeah,
think,
when you break it down like that. Yeah.
yeah, it is not our fault. There are things we can do to help, absolutely. But, again,
But
you could tick all those things off and still not maybe
that's
fall
the thing,
pregnant.
there are no guarantees. And I do
No.
always say that, you can come to me and I will do my very best. We will look into as much as possible, but I can't guarantee,
Yeah.
a baby at the
No
end.
one
I
can.
will do, yeah, a fertility clinic, the best fertility doctors in the world can't guarantee that either. So
Mm,
yeah, it is just about, yeah, it's just like, I just wanted to let people know that this is available. People don't have to come
100%.
to me either,
Yeah.
there are, I come under the fertility nutrition centre as well. So there's a lots of us based around the country, that again are specialists. So we know more about the fertility side of things and
Yeah.
what's available, what we should look into. We keep up with all our CPD. In July, actually, I'm really excited. There's ESHRE, which is the biggest like European fertility conference, is coming to London for the first time in ages. It's
Oh,
usually in
wow.
other sort of European countries, so I'm going to that. um which all the doctors and medical profession goes to as well. So it's not just the holistic side as such. So you can always find out. Research is always going on, but it's when it gets down to, let's get it down to the mainstream. So, the general public know what's out there, that they can, again, when they're ready to do so, that there are other avenues to look at and investigate that they just might not have heard of before.
Exactly. It's all about knowledge. It's all about choices and options, and
Yeah,
some of the things might be an option, some of them might not, but it's about knowing that it is there. And people like you do exist and you are fantastic. What you do is amazing. I've followed you for a long time, as you know,
mhm,
since we met, and I love your
yeah,
work and I love what you're doing to try and, empower people to be able to have these choices. And, it is so good. But it's just so sad that, it's not this kind of information isn't open to everyone, and we need to make sure people do
mm,
at least know about it and there's awareness out there, and that's the whole point, obviously, in the podcast. So
yeah.
I think
It's
we've
getting
done
it
our
out
job
there.
today, Vicky. There is nothing else we can probably do or say. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
I would say, I always, because I've been there, so I've done my own journey. So I'm very, have so much empathy for, anybody else in the same situation. So I do try, I can't do my job for free because I've got to pay bills and stuff. If I could, I would. My husband tells me off all the time because he's like, you're never going to make, because you do so many freebies. But I also, on my Instagram, I try and put quite a lot of information on there as well. There's different tests to look at, different like case studies, different, the nutrition side, what you're going to get from something, what nutrients are important, looking at sleep and the whole sort of lifestyle side of it as well. So I try and put on as much as I can. Obviously,
Yeah.
it's at a very sort of top level. I can't go too deep
Well,
because
it's
everyone's different.
general. It's also
It's
general
general,
knowledge, isn't it? You're giving away
yeah,
people's the tools for people and the information, but at the end of the day, like we said at the beginning, it's not a one size fits all. So
no,
these people could be doing all these amazing things that you're suggesting, and actually they're just throwing 100 darts at a dartboard and hoping something sticks and hoping that's what's for them. Which, if that's all
yeah,
they can do, brilliant. It gives them the opportunity to
yeah.
do
They've
that.
got something there.
Yeah, but if they do want to delve a bit deeper and they do want to get to the nitty gritty that's actually specific for them, you're their guy. So
Yeah, definitely. And and I can help with other resources and
yeah,
other experts in the field. Actually go and see you, the hypnotherapy, go and see whoever. There's other. Like some people come to me, they're like, "Oh, I'm fed up with my clinic, don't know what to do." We go through various options. I'm not here to tell people where to go and what to do, but
exactly.
recommendations as well. So it's not
Yeah,
you come and see me and you only look at nutrition. It's looking at, well, actually, you might need a bit more support on this side. So actually, got another bank of people that can help as well. So yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, I just try and help people as much as I possibly can because it's
yeah,
hard, it's tough. And if I can reduce that journey for people, if I can just, stop them having to go cycle after cycle or, even worse, loss after loss, I just want to be able to do as much as I can really.
absolutely. And I think, having that personal experience, a bit like me, I guess, it gives you that drive and that passion and that understanding of you knowing exactly how that feels and why you
Yeah,
do what you do. What your experience changed your life. My traumatic experience changed mine. We both retrained. We're on quite a similar
yeah,
little path here, Vicky, aren't we?
yeah,
Both retrained and both decided that our mission was to support people who are going through this. And it's good that we have people like us out there that people can turn to. Because, even getting a generic GP appointment these days is very difficult and people struggle and people wait a long time and we're not very patient society, are we? So
no. No,
sometimes,
no. But again, again, I can help people with they got a GP appointment. What do you ask for? Actually say it like this. Don't just ask for it in this way. Do it in this way. They're going to find it very hard to say no to it if you're saying it like this.
yeah,
And again, looking at conditions as well. But we could talk all day, but if people might be showing endometriosis symptoms or I would say PCOS, but it's just been renamed to PMOS or things like that that just haven't
yeah,
been picked up before, or they've just thought were normal. And I'm like, that's not normal. Go to your doctor. It might be a bit of a wait or it might be a pain to get an appointment, but do follow it through and you're gonna get this other support then if you are diagnosed. I'm not a doctor, I can't diagnose, I can't
yeah,
treat, but
yeah.
I can maybe notice something and be a bit like that. And that isn't right.
Yeah. And I
You can
think
get
having that
this extra support.
reassurance, having that third party reassurance of someone saying to you, I think you need to get this checked out. It's different when
Yeah,
family members or other halves say, "Oh, you probably should go to a doctor," and you're like, "Oh no, I won't. I don't need that." And
yeah,
having someone like you, who, yes, you're not a doctor, but you are professional and you deal with this every single day, you can sometimes
yeah,
probably see patterns or signs of something else going on. So whilst you can't diagnose, you can point them in the right direction to go and get a
yeah,
diagnosis. And,
yeah,
same with me, I'm not a, massive brain specialist, but if I saw something going on in someone's psyche or, something with their mental health or even something like neurodiversity or something like that, I can say, oh, have you
yeah,
noticed this? And you might want to get that
yeah,
checked out. Not that I can diagnose you, but let's give you the option to speak to someone
yeah.
who may be able to support you further. That's all we can do, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's just supporting people, isn't it, as much as
Yeah,
possible. It's so frustrating that people even have to go through this and it doesn't just work like we're taught in school and but unfortunately it doesn't.
yeah. Okay, well, if I think we're done, I think we've spoke for England. Um, if anyone wants to get in touch or talk about anything we've raised today or be a future guest on the podcast, please do get in touch. As always, my email is kelly@makingmiracles.org.uk. I want to say a big thank you to Vicky. We will obviously put all of her information and handles on our post when we post the podcast out. And if you did want to get in contact with her, you do an intro call, don't you, Vicky? Is there
I
something
do.
that?
So yeah, literally completely free. 20 minutes. I say it's 20 minutes. Some people it could be 20 minutes. Some people I'm on the phone for an hour. I don't rush them at all. But yeah, completely free. Discovery call, which you can find a book from my website as well. So if you
Yeah,
wanted to discuss anything or just, and again, it's no obligation. You haven't got to have that call, and then you've got to book in. you might decide that's not for you, it's not for you at this right time, or whatever. But again, again, I'll try and give what I can,
Yeah,
but I can't
absolutely.
give too much without too much. I need medical history, I need backgrounds, I need that kind of information. But I can usually give sort of some general tips as well. So yeah,
Yeah, well, that's
completely free
great. And if
for
people can benefit from that, even if they can't afford to go ahead, that's fine.
yeah, they might get something from it. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Vicky. It was lovely to have
Okay,
you on,
thank you. Thanks for having me.
and I will see you guys soon. Thank you.